Okay, let's see how much I can milk this. Alright, first of all, yes, apologies. Normally this would have been where the next review for a Black Mirror episode would have gone up, but there was Doctor Who news. That means it's getting bumped back a day. Things will go back to normal next week, hopefully. So you may or may not have heard we had the premiere debut thing for the new logo for Doctor Who, and some of you may be wondering, is he really gonna do a whole video about just a logo? And yeah, I kind of am. If more people who, subscribe to me here also followed me on Twitter, maybe I could just post there that it's a logo, what do you want from me? But because I've only got a couple hundred people who follow me on there as opposed to the almost 12,000 subscribers that I have here, if I don't say something here, I am going to be flooded with messages or comments saying, why haven't you talked about this? What are your thoughts on it? So I need to put it here so I'm not getting pestered for it elsewhere. So yeah, the logo, the debut, a whole new look. Basically the third major redesign on the sort of the look of the logo for Doctor Who. It seems like every new showrunner has brought one in. And they've been tweaked sometimes during, Davies tweaked his a little as time went along. Moffat had his own. And now we've got this. And overall, I like it. I kind of like the vibe of it. It's an interesting contrast, especially to Moffat, because Moffat went for like the big blocky kind of letters, a bit more evocative of some of the old classic versions of the logo in some ways, which was neat for his time. But I think this is an interesting way to go. And there is something, I like how some things just don't quite line up, just slightly off. It gives it that slight air of mystery to it that honestly I find intriguing. I also like the color scheme that's involved in the the tiny little 17-second, however long it is, video that the BBC put up debuting the logo. They also released a still image, which is honestly just a really cool image, and I like that as well. So now the real question, how much am I gonna read into this? Because if I wanted to, I could really stretch and talk about how, maybe the more, thin lettering and things not lining up, maybe that's indicative of an increased level of mystery and how we don't really know how this Doctor's gonna go, but I'd be pulling that out of my butt. I'm sure some people are doing that anyway. What I will note is something that was initially pointed out to me by some friends that I am in a sort of a messenger group in where we talk about Doctor Who, that the logo, if you turn it 90 degrees, that over there on the O, that kind of becomes the female symbol, gender symbol. Although, and it does look like people are starting to catch on to that, I'm going to go a step further, because since that bottom bit is actually longer and like goes outside what it would normally be for the female symbol, it's actually more specifically the femme symbol, which would be for lesbians who identify as femme, which is as opposed to butch. So I find that interesting. So toss that out to people like, it's the female symbol. Correct them. Say, no, it's the femme symbol. Know your stuff. Get it right. And I don't know whether I want to call this being intentional or not, because I could make the argument either way. Like, part of me wants to go, well, look, at the overall look of the thing, that's a way to do it. Maybe they didn't notice. Maybe they didn't think of it. And I mean, it's not like it stands out massively. I mean, once somebody points it out to you, it's hard to not see it there. But the way the whole logo flows, it doesn't really draw a ton of attention to itself. So it could have just been something that happened once they settled on kind of a font and general vibe for the thing. I could buy that. I could also buy that they knew exactly what they were doing, and tilting it on their side was their way to be slightly subversive and see what they could get away with. I could buy either one of those, and honestly, for me, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't really matter. I know there are some fans out there who will absolutely care and demand to know, was this done on purpose or was this done by accident, because it will confirm or fight against the inherent bias that they have about how much of this is agenda pushing. And as I know this thing is going to start spreading, this little nugget that I've now pointed out and talked about, I would say initially curious and probably ultimately annoyed by how a certain stripe of fan is really going to go off on one over this. And look, it's even if you see that and makes you go, oh, they did it on purpose, and makes you angry, look, unless you've resolved to just never watch the show again, just calm yourself down. Watch the dang thing. Don't get angry before you've actually seen anything of substance, because we still haven't. We had like 40 seconds of her on screen. We've seen the outfit. We've seen this, and that's literally it. It's not enough to get worked up about. So, setting that aside, coming back to general thoughts on the logo, it's new, and I tend to like new things. I can be prisoner of the moment sometimes in that way. But I will say that I like I said, I like it in contrast to Moffat's. I don't know if I like it more than Moffat's. I definitely like it more than Davies. I think the Davies is my least favorite of the modern era Doctor Who versions of the logo. Not least favorite overall. You go to the 80s for the really bad ones. But, the Davies one never really worked for me. That was just kind of generic. It didn't feel like it had a lot of personality. It was a little better when they got rid of those dots, took those off it. But, Moffat's had more personality. I feel like there was a lot of personality in this logo. Exactly what is that personality conveying? Like I said, I could hazard guesses, but I'll be more interested to come back and see it again retroactively once I have a better sense of what the show and Jodie Whittaker and the part are going to be like, so that I can look at this logo and get a better sense of, oh, that's why it's kind of more like this. And I'll be interested to find that out. But like I said, it's nice. I like it. It's a fresh look, but it's not so jarring with what, at least in my mind, the sort of things that work in Doctor Who, that it makes me go, that just doesn't look right. Which honestly, in some ways, was my initial reaction to not the title, I suppose, but that logo, the DW and the TARDIS. When Moffat first debuted that, I was like, it grew on me over time. But even this, initial impressions are better than they were for that. So, yeah, this doesn't sway any opinion that I had about one thing or the other, but I kind of like it. It's nifty. So, new Doctor Who logo. Do you have thoughts on this? Are you annoyed with me that I bumped my regularly scheduled programming to talk about something like this? I don't know. Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. There's all that stuff for you to do. Support me on Patreon. Buy a t-shirt. Follow me on Twitter, which I mentioned. All those things, link for all that stuff is down below. Podcasts, etc., etc. So until next time, this council is adjourned.